My name is Amir Fallah. I'm an artist living in Los Angeles, California, and I'm one of the COLA 2020 fellows. I've always been interested in my work, exploring topics that feel intimate to me in some capacity. I always start with the self and expand from there. So with my current work, I've been dealing with these biographical paintings. They started as paintings of immigrants, and with the more recent work, they've been kind of looking more towards my own family, my son, my wife, and our family dynamic. I moved to LA about 20 years ago to go to graduate school at UCLA, and the plan was always to go to school here and immediately return to the East Coast and move to New York City and, do the struggling artist thing. But as with most people, once winter hits, LA kind of shows itself to you and shows how incredible it could be. Because of the sheer size of Los Angeles and the space, artists were allowed to have a lot of breathing room within their work. There was a lot of solitude and space to explore and experiment and grow, where I feel like in places like New York City, you weren't really allowed to do that as much. I think going through that experience of being in this very popular program and then coming out of it and just having to work alone for many years really gave me the space to kind of discover what my work was really about. When there's nobody giving you studio visits or critiques, it makes you kind of look inward and really discover what you want to say. With the new work I'm making now, where a series of life lessons or parables that I want to pass down to my son, who's almost 5 years old. And by making the work, I'm hoping that that also resonates with other people who have a family, have a young child, or people that pick up on the warmth of the work. And so each painting starts with a line of text. And then that line of text is my starting point for finding imagery or iconographies to use in the paintings. Every day I've started this practice of sitting down at our dining room table, which is now covered in plastic and is like a makeshift art studio. And my son and I will have some sort of like creative project. And I'll start making these small works on paper that are based on some of the sketches that I have for the larger paintings. And he will do some sort of art and craft project. And it's been really interesting because so much of the work is about raising a child and, passing on your values to him. And in a strange way, it's become very rewarding to make that work with him sitting next to me, also making work. And sometimes he'll ask me what I'm painting, so he's been directly influencing the work that I'm making right by him that's about him. That era of, late 80s, early 90s, punk and hardcore that was kind of in the DC area really has shaped me into who I am today. And so I got introduced to animal rights through that world. And a lot of those beliefs are things that I'm passing on to my son. I started thinking about collaging a lot and or quilting. Quilting is a sort of collaging in a sense. And these tapestries, they're not real tapestries, they're kind of fabric collages, right? I'm taking pre-existing fabrics and kind of collaging them together. And so that made me think about creating punk zines, which I had a zine in high school called Beautiful Decay, which later turned into a magazine that I ran for many years. And that zine was started by me and my best friend going to a Kinko's and photocopying a bunch of images and cutting and pasting them together. So I think that aesthetic of that do-it-yourself aesthetic that, I don't know anything about the subject, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it. That's something that's always been a big part of my art making endeavors. So I think a lot of the same ethos of the punk and hardcore community has kind of like worked itself into this body of work.